Have you ever wondered why some people seem to uh, just navigate the whole money thing so easily, while others struggle like constantly,
Yeah.
even people with good incomes?
Yeah, it's a really common question, isn't it? Especially when you hear stats about how many people are basically living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. So today on the deep dive,
Mm.
we're going to unpack the core ideas from a book that's really shaken things up for a lot of people.
Mm.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. We've got some summaries here, and our goal is to pull out those key insights, those actionable ideas to help understand different ways to think about wealth.
Right. And the heart of the book really is this metaphor of Kiyosaki's two dads. You've got his biological father, highly educated, Stanford doctorate, who he calls poor dad.
Okay.
And then there's his best friend's father, an entrepreneur, less formal education, who he calls rich dad. It's not just a personal story. It really represents two completely opposing philosophies about money.
What's wild is, the book came out way back in 1997, but these lessons, they still feel incredibly relevant today, maybe even more so.
Absolutely. The poor dad mindset was all about that traditional path. Get a secure job, good benefits, pension, stability over everything. Buying a house was like the ultimate investment.
The classic
The
advice.
classic advice, yeah. But Rich Dad had a totally different view. It was about accumulating assets that generate income, about financial literacy, thinking for yourself, taking calculated risks, building businesses.
So let's dig into that contrast. Why has this framework had such a huge impact?
Well, first off, think about how the economy's changed. That poor dad path, the secure job, the guaranteed pension, it kind of fit the 20th century model better, maybe?
Yeah, things feel less certain now.
Exactly. Pensions aren't as common, the job market's way more volatile. So that old path doesn't offer the same security blanket it used to. Rich Dad's approach is more about taking control of your own financial security through smart investing, through assets that work for you.
Right, taking the reins yourself. And this is where that really vivid idea of the rat race comes in, isn't it?
Precisely. Kiyosaki paints this picture of a cycle driven by two really strong emotions. Fear, the fear of not having enough money, and greed, or maybe just the desire for more stuff.
Okay, so how does that trap people?
Well, you work hard to earn a salary, right? But then almost immediately that need to spend kicks in. Often you start spending more as you earn more. That's lifestyle inflation.
Ah, the fancy car, the bigger house.
Yeah. And suddenly you're back where you started, needing to work just as hard or harder to cover those rising expenses. So even getting a raise doesn't necessarily get you out of the cycle if your fundamental money habits don't change.
So the money ends up controlling you, essentially. You're stuck in a job you might not even like just for the paycheck.
That's the core of the rat race idea, and it leads straight into the first big lesson from the book. The rich don't work for money.
Okay, that sounds a bit paradoxical at first glance, doesn't it?
It does. But the key here is that wealthy individuals don't rely solely on a salary from a traditional job. Their main game is acquiring assets, things that generate ongoing, often passive income. They make their money work for them.
As opposed to.
As opposed to most people who focus on working for a salary and often end up buying liabilities, things that take money out of their pockets, increasing expenses, and pushing financial freedom further away.
So real financial independence then is reached when?
Exactly. When the income from your assets, your investments, is enough to cover your living expenses, you reach a point where you don't need the salary anymore to survive. It's about making your money make more money.
I remember reading something from Sam Altman, the tech investor.
Yeah.
He said something similar about owning assets that appreciate rapidly versus just selling your time.
Yeah, that's the same principle. Your time is finite, but assets can potentially grow and generate income indefinitely.
Which brings us neatly to lesson 2. Buy assets, not liabilities. This feels like where the rubber really meets the road in distinguishing wealth building from just spending.
Absolutely critical distinction. In Kiyosaki's terms, an asset is anything that consistently puts money into your pocket. Think dividend stocks, rental properties bringing in monthly cash, profitable businesses.
Stuff that pays you.
Right. And a liability is anything that consistently takes money out of your pocket. Credit card debt, car loans, things that just cost you money regularly.
Okay, but here's where it gets tricky for a lot of people, myself included sometimes. The primary home. Isn't that usually considered your biggest asset?
That's the big one Kiyosaki challenges head on. And yeah, it goes against conventional wisdom. While a house might appreciate in value over time, he argues it's not inherently an asset because it doesn't generate income.
Right, it costs money.
A lot of money usually. The mortgage principal and interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs. It's a constant negative cash flow each month.
Ah, so from his perspective, it only becomes an asset if, say, you rent it out,
Mm.
and the rent covers all those costs and puts money in your pocket.
Precisely. Otherwise, he views it as a major liability that can actually keep people stuck in the rat race because of those high monthly payments and ongoing costs.
Okay, that reframing is powerful, and it connects directly to, I think it was lesson 5 you mentioned, about financial intelligence. You kind of need that to know which assets to buy and how to manage them, right?
Correct. Developing financial intelligence is, according to Kiyosaki, absolutely foundational for building real, sustainable wealth. He breaks it down into 4 main areas.
Okay, what are they?
First, accounting, basically, understanding financial statements, knowing how to read the numbers. Second, investing, knowing different strategies, different vehicles for making your money make more money.
Makes sense.
Third, understanding market supply and demand, how economic forces affect asset prices. And fourth, the law, knowing about tax advantages, legal structures for corporations, asset protection, that sort of thing.
So it's not just about earning a lot, it's about being smart with what you have and how the system works.
Exactly. Financial intelligence lets you see opportunities others miss, solve financial problems creatively, and make informed, strategic decisions. Kiyosaki argues that spending on financial education isn't an expense, it's an investment that can literally buy you life by potentially shaving years off the time you need to work.
Saving years of work just by making smarter choices. That's a compelling thought.
Imagine avoiding costly mistakes or harnessing something like compound interest. Effectively, the impact over time is huge.
But knowing all this stuff is one thing, acting on it is another. The summaries also touched on overcoming mental roadblocks, right? Fear.
Yes, Lesson 4 is all about that. It stresses the need for courage, for overcoming self-doubt, and the fear of failure. It's not just about being smart. You need, as he puts it, guts, chutzpah, tenacity. You need to actually do things.
Because the fear of losing money can paralyze you.
Totally. It can make you play it super safe, stick to the familiar, even if it means missing out on opportunities that could have much higher rewards. Learning to manage that fear, seeing losses not as the end, but as learning experiences is crucial.
Okay. And we also had that summary from MDZ Online. Did that offer any different angles or reinforce these points?
It did. It really highlighted how relevant these lessons remain even decades later. It mentioned the collaboration with Sharon Lechter on the book and its massive bestseller status.
Right.
It also acknowledged the whole debate about whether parts of the story are, strictly factual or more illustrative, but stressed that the underlying financial principles are still incredibly valuable.
And what were the key takeaways MDZ focused on?
It really hammered home the importance of financial education again. Big point. Also, that stark difference in how businesses versus employees handle taxes. Businesses often spend first, then pay tax on profit, while employees get taxed right off the top.
That's a significant difference.
Huge. It also reiterated the need to cut down liabilities, stop the money leaks, and crucially, it emphasized building your own business to generate assets rather than just working for someone else. That line, "It's not your business, it's your job," really sticks.
Yeah, that's blunt.
And interestingly, it also mentioned accepting that losing money can be part of the journey, that learning from those failures is essential for growth.
Okay, so if we boil down everything we've talked about today from Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Yeah.
what's the core message?
I think the absolute essence is shifting your mindset, moving away from just working hard for money and towards building systems where money works hard for you. And the main way to do that is by strategically acquiring income-generating assets and continually investing in your own financial literacy.
And that stark contrast between the Poor Dad and Rich Dad philosophies really pushes you to think about your own approach, doesn't it?
It really does. Are you prioritizing that perceived security of a traditional job, maybe at the cost of real independence? Or are you willing to step outside the comfort zone, take some calculated risks, and really commit to developing the financial intelligence needed to build genuine wealth and control your financial future?
So let's leave our listeners with this thought. Based on everything we've discussed, what's one specific tangible action you could take, maybe even starting today, to begin shifting your mindset towards building assets and boosting your financial intelligence?
That's a powerful question to reflect on. I'd really encourage everyone listening to take a moment, think about that, and identify just one first step. And look, if you want to dive deeper into these ideas, explore the whole book, we strongly recommend clicking the link right below this audio. That link will let you listen to the complete Rich Dad, Poor Dad audiobook for free using Audible. It's a fantastic opportunity to access this influential information that's genuinely changed financial perspectives for so many people. So don't miss out, the links right there below.